The best way to take control over a people and control them utterly is to take a little of their freedom at a time, to erode rights by 1,000 tiny and almost imperceptible reductions. In this way, the people will not see those rights and freedoms being removed until past the point at which these changes cannot be reversed.
Let's go to the phones. Edna on the line. Edna, good morning.
Hi, I live in a farming community just outside of Ottawa. It's called Embrun. It is so French that I cannot get people to speak English to me at the grocery store. They know I speak English because I'm there week after week. They insist on speaking to me in French. If they think you don't speak French, they talk about you right in front of you in French. My kids had to be bused to school in the neighboring village, and there are no English schools at all in that little town. And the little community center where your kids could learn to dance and stuff and do all kinds of activities, French only. What do you have to say about that, Mr. Green? Not too different from here.
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons why I think that it's time for Quebec to go. Because for far too long, we have been dancing everywhere in this country to Quebec's tune. Most of the, at least a lot of the political decisions that have been reached over the years are not in the best interests of Canada or Canadians, but rather what is going to sell best in the province of Quebec.
When you're saying the French ministers in Ontario, in Ottawa,
Absolutely.
are working on behalf of Quebec, and not on behalf of the rest of Canada?
Absolutely. Any federal government, whether it happens to be a Conservative government or a Liberal government, the Quebec interests are represented by those federal ministers. Because Quebec has basically surrounded Ottawa through its federal ministers, French ministers, its provincial government, and the Bloc Quebecois, they have the federal government strangled. So as a result, whatever their demands are, they get.
Quebec now drives the quota policy for all of Eastern Canada, like they're in the P5 and they make the rules and it's their rules and so on. Yeah, Quebec has 23% of the population, 40% of the nation's milk quota. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know, they didn't earn it, they got it.
But you seem to be suggesting there's something deeper, that all politicians from Quebec are simply, essentially, Quebec first at the expense of the rest of the country. That, you really believe that?
I actually believe that. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I'm actually saying it.
And I want to address the situation in Embrun. And by the way, I do this in my book. I'm glad she called. The fact of the matter is that a number of separatists have well-known separatists, and I identify some, have left the province of Quebec. They've been, they chased out so much business, as you know, Tommy, out of Quebec. So some of these people had to come into Ontario to find jobs. They chased them out of Quebec, and then they followed them into Ontario. And now they are agitating for some of the minority rights in Ontario that they denied to you Anglos in the province of Quebec.
I would like the bus driver to be able to welcome me in French.
Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the 39th Avenue, please?
Hopefully the new drivers that will be hired will be bilingual.
And it's not just Embrun. Many of the little towns and communities in East Ontario have been overrun. As you clearly see, it's often not a question of things being bilingual. It's frequently French dominant. Street signs, businesses, schools, etc. And now they have set their sights on Ottawa. Let's have a look at these Statistics Canada numbers for Ottawa. We see that approximately 69% of the people in Ottawa are listed as having knowledge of the English language only, with a mere 1.4% listed as being French only. We also see approximately 37% of the people in Ottawa have knowledge of French and English, or categorized as bilingual. Something to note about that 37% bilingual group, however, many have what is called high school or immersion French, which is okay in casual conversation with a friend, but according to what most employers are looking for, this would not be enough to qualify those people for a job at a job interview. So, that 37% bilingual group is not actually 37% at all. So let's say we use half, or even for the benefit of the doubt, let's call it 18%. This means that we have approximately 69% plus another approximately 18% for a total of approximately 87% of the citizens of Ottawa that do not have a high enough proficiency in French and thus do not qualify for the so-called bilingual job postings in their own city right now.
I don't speak French, and any job in town, you've got to speak both now. So they're pushing it a little too much as far as I'm concerned.
This is something we're hearing more and more complaints about in Ontario, and more specifically in Ottawa these days. More and more jobs are becoming bilingual essential. This situation was only restricted to government at the federal level at one point, but because of recent push by hundreds of French organizations and their constant complaining, many businesses and employers in Ottawa are feeling the pressure to hire only staff that are bilingual as well. So now we see private companies and institutions that are trying to avoid these annoying complaints by hiring only bilingual applicants. This is the same at most hospitals now. They want to avoid the hassle by hiring staff that are bilingual. Most police forces in the surrounding area requiring that their officers be bilingual. Most schools are only hiring teachers and support workers, staff for lunch area and workers and so on and so forth, that are bilingual. All of this to accommodate 1.4% of the population that speaks French only in Ottawa? If this trend is allowed to continue and people like this fella,
I would like the bus driver to be able to welcome me in French,
get their way and are successful in making Ottawa an officially bilingual city, which it is not right at this moment, we will see this further filtering down so that ultimately it will affect every job in Ottawa, and then beyond to the point where unilingual English-speaking people will be unable to find work in their own city.
Residents of a small community west of Ottawa are demanding that Canada Post reverse a decision to fire a local employee. She was notified by phone that she can no longer work in the Pakenham post office.
She's being terminated because she doesn't speak French. The residents here say there is simply no need for Barr to speak French because 96% of the population is English-speaking.
Province.
My parents don't speak French, so actually my dad wanted to work in Ottawa but couldn't get hired because he doesn't speak French.
And ultimately, country.